Earlier this year, I attended a Women in Technology conference. The panels were comprised of brilliant, successful women in the tech industry, top of their game. Most of the participants aligned as male-female, two-parent, so-called nuclear family units. Throughout the discussions, there was a similar theme. Ideas about how women should claim their place at the table, how women should stand out, how they should plan their home and family life to never, ever distract from their career. I was surprised. I was surprised that it was taken for granted that parenting was women's work and something that they have to plan and execute tightly around their work commitments. This is agony. The concept that not only do we have to find our place at the table, we have to lay the table. We have to take multiple unpaid jobs as chef, chief event planner, chief medical officer, chief education officer, alone. That is far too much load for one person to carry. And why should we? Breaking news. It takes two to tango. You may assume the role of default parent, but that's only because you allow it to be that way. Parenting is a shared objective, and all parents have the ability to enjoy their children and work hard for their children. It's a two-person game. We have to look at our world and understand that the paradigm that we live in is flawed. So let's drill into that. It's clear that women have permission from society largely to be a caregiver and an employee. Do men have that permission? Should men have that permission? Should men need permission from society for their role to expand beyond that of hunter and provider? I'm asking you today to boldly join me in changing the conversation. Let's talk about fatherhood for a change. This conversation isn't new. So let's talk numbers. In 1950, 11.9% of women with children under the age of 6 were participating in the workforce. Flash forward to 1979, that number had tripled. Flash forward to 2017, there was now 65.1% of women with children under the age of 6 participating in the workforce. That's 65.1%. You can imagine that expectations of male participation at home might have evolved a little. Well, let's talk about that. In the 1950s, let's just say that men's participation in the family and in the raising of children was a little minimal. 1979, 3 times as many women in the workforce. What do we find? Well, in 1979, a study found that despite there being 3 times more women participating in the workforce, there were just minimal gains in their participation at home. It's much better now, right? Well, research study in 2018 found that women do double the amount of care of children, care of family members, and the execution of household tasks than their male counterparts. Double. Let's just get that one clear. Double. Anyone tired? So I bet you're wondering, is there a role for that so-called default caregiver in changing this paradigm? Well, you could wake up tomorrow and presume that your significant other is now the default parent and see how that goes. But failing that, there are 3 things you can do to change the narrative. Number 1, presume competence. No more jokes and memes about the incapable partner. Let's face it, we all have funny stories about our spouses and fathers of our children. But let's not pretend we don't all make mistakes. Besides, my husband's over there and he's got a few stories about me, and I can't get through this talk without remembering that. Let's not also presume that women reach the top of their parenting game because of DNA. Like any person in any job, in any company, the one with the most opportunity to execute and practice a skill set is the one most competent in the role. So let's drill into that. Imagine you got a new job, and that job came with on-the-job, experiential learning round the clock for the first 12 weeks. But you had to work a second job at the same time. So midnight on the first day of your new job rolls around, and you're all excited, you and your coworkers together battling away, wondering what that strange noise is caused by and where that smell is coming from, and you are in it together and you know you are competent. Flash forward to 6 a.m., the noise is still there, but now you gotta get a shower, get some breakfast, and start to think about transitioning to your other job. 7 o'clock, you're in the car or on the train, but in your commute. 8 o'clock, you're in your seat and work, lunch. Think about how it's going at your other job, work more. 5 o'clock, transition to your other job. And you arrived there and you are already behind. Everybody has learned more than you all day long, and every single day of that 12 weeks, the gap grows, and you know you're still competent, but you defer because you also know that other people are more experienced. That is the reality of fatherhood for so many people. When we systematically leave fathers out of the journey, it becomes difficult in that way. Paternal leave really helps start the relationship well. A 2011 study of paternity leave or a 2016 study of paternity leave in 11 countries found that when leave extended to a month or more, it made men more confident in their abilities. Over the last few years, we've seen more and more male leaders across multiple industries announce that they're taking paternal leave. The needle has moved so far and so fast in this emerging fatherhood culture that just earlier this year, the CEO, Ben Congleton, and the COO, Met Pizzamenti, of OLARC both announced that they were taking paternal leave for 3 months to take care of their newborns at the same time. Both CEO and COO gone, company gone to you-know-where. No, although you might have thought so from the messages on social media, the reality on the ground, very different. The Wall Street Journal reports that OLARC is profitable and second in its class of companies. The director of product of OLARC said that while workload increased for managers, it led to an increase in teamwork and the ability to problem solve. What a gift! Second, assume willingness. Assume that your partner wants to be a significant part of the journey. You may be the default parent, but you have to engage with that assumption. As a father, it is sometimes very easy to feel like an imposter. Imposter syndrome, as some of you may know, is characterized by feelings of inadequacy despite evidence to the contrary. It's very much reported among women and minorities in the workplace, but it can be very much a reality for fathers at home. So how do you help? Well, very much like you would help a person at work who had feelings of and hesitations. The same thing goes for helping your significant others. Very simple. Assume willingness and help them claim their place at the kitchen table. Let's go back to our COO, Mark Pizzamenti, for a moment. He said that when his wife went back to work and he took solo responsibility for raising his son, that it gave him new perspective and great balance between work and life and helped him have the time to think about the future strategy of his company. Sounds like a win to me. Third, drive equity. Don't assume that they report to you. They are 50% of the parenting partnership. You may be the default parent, but you have to engage as equals. Let's say you know the answer to a question or challenge they may have. Here's your choice. You can tell the answer. Or, just like someone who you're mentoring at work to rise to a position of leadership, instead of giving the answer, you can draw out the answer they already know. You have to be invested in helping your partner grow towards equity if you want to be aligned as partners and share the load for the whole life journey. Just remember, birth is not the end game. Parenting is so much more than a few weeks leave at the start of a child's life. It's a whole journey through life. Speaking of the journey, when men return to work after paternal leave, there's an inherent expectation that they'll put it all behind them and they get back to work. It takes the right leadership to build the culture that you want to see at work, and it's all in the questions. For instance, if I have a one-to-one with an employee each week, and each week I ask, how many widgets did you make this week? Did you encounter any challenges making the widgets? What would you do and change in yourself to make more widgets next week? Well, what's the employee going to infer? That the only thing that's important to me is productivity and volume. Same thing with the fatherhood culture. How's baby Johnny is a cursory nod to parenthood. 10 points for remembering the baby's name, but here is a much more useful question. Our next project is happening over the summer. What are your family's blackout dates? That tells the employee that their work is important, but they should factor in their family. Another question, we're heading into December, and I know some of you have family events and school concerts and other fun things that you want to participate in. Let's plan our time off around the things that are most valuable to us. Again, and that question isn't even just aimed at fathers. It tells everybody that their time is valued, but their time off is also respected. When setting goals, be inclusive. Help employees recognize that that they are building goals around a bigger picture that includes work. Ask an employee, what do you want to achieve next year with your family? Having that connection with an achievement in work and an achievement outside of work helps people build the time management skills they need to achieve the most important things in a surround of life, in a fulfilling life. And watch out, because if you have an employee who can't answer that question, they're probably the ones who have no support network to fall back on when the chips are down, and they will be down. It takes a great leader to build the culture that we want to see. Like our OLARC CEOs, you have to be present. You have to model the culture you want to see. How does that happen? Well, you have to be seen to go home early when you're coaching soccer on Wednesdays. You have to be seen to come in late because you attended that event where all the kids got 14 awards because, let's face it, it was important to the kids. And you have to be seen to do the hard stuff too, because it's not just about fun daddy any more than it's about fun mommy. As a leader or a peer at work, go all in. Don't judge when a father takes an unexpected day to take care of a sick child. You wouldn't judge a single guy if he took a day off to watch the Cubs because he got last-minute tickets. Well, unless you were a Sox fan, right? We have to engage in a way that builds that culture every day and every interaction, because it matters in the long term. It is so important to allow a father to be a human being with all the frailty and all the vulnerability that comes with that. They will be better leaders of men and women because they will show empathy. Every second that you invest in building a culture at work, of fatherhood at work, builds a culture of humanity at work. Yes, people will take off time, and more people will take more time off, but the reality is that that is a good thing. We can't change the shape of the boardroom table by wanting it to be different. But if we invest time in building a culture that embraces fatherhood, more mothers will find their way to the boardroom table. Using our questions, using pro-fatherhood language, embracing our parents, our spouses, and trusting them at home. Those are the catalysts that will change the story. Don't try to change motherhood by trying to do it all. Change the parenthood experience for everyone by elevating fatherhood. Thank you.